Hey, Dr. Ostler, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you, Carl?
Doing fantastic. I want to thank you so much for being my first guest on the podcast. So hopefully that makes you feel extra special.
Well, we're in for trouble now.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. So I thought maybe I start out first by just getting to know you a little bit. Tell us a bit about yourself, why you got into the dentistry field and just kind of, just give us a little history of what you've seen over the years.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you. My background is I'm a general dentist.
Okay.
That's where I'm at now. I just sold the practice and I'm kind of transitioning into retirement. So after 40 years, it's different to be on the other end of that stick. But when it first started, I was probably just as naive as anybody else, trying to figure out what to do with my life. And I happened to be in a place where there was a lot of dentists in the community, and I just noticed their standard of living and their ability, their capabilities to invest themselves into things bigger than themselves. And I thought that's kind of what I want. And so I began making that track. It's like once I made that decision, I didn't have any alternative career plans. I didn't have any plan Bs. It was just straight on and straightforward. And so my education, happened at undergraduate at BYU, and then I went to the University of Washington to do my dental degree, and then I spent 3 years in the public health service right after school. It was kind of like a type of a residency, as it were.
Okay.
Not in the formal sense that we think of today, but it gave me some real world experience with people and directing a clinic. And then from there, I went into private practice. Been in Southeast Washington for the total duration since then. So that's kind of a quick overfly.
Yeah, that's cool. So I think we might have more in common than I realized. So I live here in Pocatello, Idaho. My family doctor growing up, his name was Dr. Richard Ostler.
Oh,
Does that name ring a bell? You related to him at all?
I do not know him.
Okay. Yeah, I thought, there's a chance there when you mentioned the BYU thing. So my brother Earl, he's a dermatologist, and he went to Idaho State University, and then he went up to University of Washington and did his medical degree there, and then he went over to Duke and finished up over there. So, just take a chance. I thought I'd ask. I was like, my dad's a pharmacist, so Dr. Ostler's name growing up, that's like you're kind of a famous name to me, Dr. Ostler. I've heard that name since I was like one, so that's kind of like a famous name, kind of cool.
Well, I'm flattered. It's actually a pretty small community of people with my name.
Really? Well, Dr. Richard Ostler, that was the guy. I heard about him constantly. So you've recently went through a transition where now you started your career and now you're kind of looking to transition out. And so I wanted to kind of ask some questions about that. I think that a lot of people, once they hit a certain age, these are the questions they gotta kind of think about and ask. So I was wondering kind of like, what was your journey? About what age did you decide, I got to start thinking about my transition plan? Was that formal? What kind of brought you to that decision?
Well, largely it was time and circumstance. I've been in a private fee-for-service sole proprietorship type of setting, for my entire career. I've not. I've just never caught the bug to want to, be in any kind of plan or any type of corporate structure.
Right.
I realize, now or over the next decade or two, that might be a diminishing species, perhaps, the way the marketplace is moving. But that was just always my intent, and so I kind of niched myself a little bit, maybe a lot. Just 5 years into my practice, I hired a practice management consultant, and
Okay.
this was way back in the very early 90s. And I remember him saying to me one day, he said, the laws are changing and you can now start to advertise. Back in the day, we couldn't advertise. We had to be very circumspect about what we even put in the yellow pages.
Really?
How big the letters were on the page. I mean, they would measure them, and it was kind of coming out of an era where the healthcare stormtroopers would go around and measure the size of your letters on your building, so that you wouldn't stand out and be better than anybody else. And he said the laws are changing. Lawyers and dentists and professional people can now do more in the public space in terms of marketing and advertising. And he says, so I think you need to do more of that, and I think you need to get into cosmetics. And
Okay.
I remember looking at him saying, well, do you mean like orthodontics? Because I'm not really interested in that.
Right.
No, it's the new cosmetics. And I said, what is that? And he goes, just go down and take the class. There's a guy in Vegas that's doing it. I just think you need to learn it. And I go, well, okay, I guess that's why I hired you, was to tell me what to do. So I signed up and I went, and I really knew nothing. And I took the course. It was one of weekend kind of courses, and
Right.
it really changed my life. After I'd taken the second course, they called me back and said, you were pretty good at that. We'd like you to come back and be an instructor with us. And so I spent the next 5 or 6 years. Every 6 weeks, I would fly into Vegas or go down to Baylor in Dallas, or back at the University of Kentucky, Lexington. And for, I don't know, it was 6 years, I spent every 6th week, teaching dentists from really all over the world, certainly the country, about, how to do this new cosmetic dentistry thing. And it was really a bug that bit me hard. And so I have to admit that I kind of over niched. I then took a fascination into what we would call TMJ, or neuromuscular. That's kind of my ideology. And so I spent 20 or 30 years of my career doing that, TMJ, bite reconstruction, cosmetics. And that all prepared me, I think, with confidence and connections and so forth. And the other side story to all that is I had a really strong interest from dental school days of everything periodontal. I did not want to specialize. I didn't see myself doing that, but this oral systemic connection, as it's called, really fascinated me. And I started to notice the medical side, the health side of people who had poor oral health and how it impacted their general health. And so I started getting involved with that. I started a marketing company of my own to try and educate physicians as well as dentists about what this oral systemic connection was, why we need each other, why we should cross-refer, why we should help build each other's practice. And one thing led to the next. We started a software company to, back in the day, put together programs and systems for kind of documenting that and communicating. Back in the day when fax was really our only or modality for communication, we built a little program that would automate, faxing, so that we could be in instant communication with healthcare providers. And it just, and so anyway, that really kind of all worked together, blended together, and maybe kind of made a little bit of a unique type or style of practice for me. I'll have to admit that doing what we call oral systemic healthcare is really difficult to monetize, especially with all the third parties and systems, and then you have things that are a little more sexy, like implants, come along, and you just can't compete with that from a business model point of view. But still, that set a foundation underneath me, and that was kind of how I oriented my practice and how I communicated with my patients, and I was able to use that as kind of a springboard into my local community. We put together, working with the county health departments, we were able to, kind of reshape some of the how they approached. At the time, they thought the oral systemic connection was all about fluoride and doing early childhood caries fluoride programs in schools. And I said, well, it really has more to do with heart disease and degenerative and diabetes and metabolic disorders, and not that that's not important, but we need to expand our horizon as this new science is coming out. And anyway, one thing led to the next there, and I found myself then working with one of the local medical schools, and they brought me in to start doing, teaching the medical students, and doing CE programs for both, having dentists and physicians sitting in the room together for educating health professionals about the integration of all these concepts and how to make it real. And so I think we're still in the infancy of that. If we pull back and looked at, big picture stuff, we're still in the infancy of that. And again,
Yeah.
it's not really driven by money because it's a difficult concept to monetize. It's a fascinating one to me, anyway.
Well, for somebody who said they didn't want to venture out in too many things, I think you kind of went against your rules on that. Sounds like you did a lot of venturing out. And it sounds like this thing that you're doing with the perio and the TMJ, you're kind of in integrating stuff, that's kind of like you're like AI before there was AI, trying to put all these things together. So I think that's pretty cool. So you got into basically so would you say that, so you really started specializing in TMJ, and then that took you to kind of understanding the perio side, and then you realized how that affected the greater health condition of your patients. And so you're looking at this from, more than just having pretty teeth or a cavity. You're looking at this from a big angle.
Yeah, and actually it might have been just a little bit the opposite. It was more of the oral systemic thing. And at the time, the prevailing paradigm or worldview of anybody in this oral systemic movement, it was about periodontal disease and heart disease. I mean, it was synonymous with that. If you, I'm treating the oral systemic connection, they go, oh, it's about heart disease. And it's like, when you step back, and I even prefer to think of it as the mouth-body connection rather than the oral systemic connection.
Okay.
Because it redefines it a little bit by just saying, look, everything matters. It's not just gum disease and heart disease or strokes. It's the TMJ. It's biologic stuff. It's heavy metals in the mouth. It's sleep apnea. It's airway. It's growth and development. It's it goes clear back to the infant who is learning how to swallow, because swallowing helps form the arch shape and form, which affects the airway, which sets us up for all sorts of disease problems as we grow older. And so it's a more all-inclusive concept. And so as you understand that, then you can say, well, then I can add sleep apnea treatments, oral airway, growth and development, orthodontics, TMJ, periodontal, which is, to me, is kind of the easy part to put your arms around. Yeah.
Are you still training people on this? Are you still doing your courses and all that kind of stuff?
No.
It's an incredible amount of knowledge.
No, I'm not. It was fun. I mean, where it took me is, I remember when I was trying to build out this marketing arm.
Mm-hmm.
I was just doing it locally in my community. I would build touring binders and I'd photocopy pages out of PubMed documenting, it really is in the literature. It really is true, right? And I would take it around to, OBGYNs and ENTs, and I'd say, look, this is what the literature is telling us, that why you and I need to be working together, and we need to be supporting each other and cross-referring. And I just saw that as that captivated me in terms of practice growth. You could be able to expand your referral sources to professional sources, not just patient word of mouth sources. And so I did that. I really got involved in that. I hired a team. We leased I think it was a 17-foot long photocopy. You put paper in one end and a book comes out the other, in a softbound. And so we started writing books. And offering them that we it was kind of a ghostwriter kind of thing, where I would put your name and photo and your stuff on the cover. And you could buy a couple dozen of these books and take them to your physicians, in your community.
I like that. I was going to say that when we are consulting, we like the kind of consulting I do is more finance, but when you start looking at numbers, you start talking about marketing and different things, and you hit on something I wanted just to kind of support. And that is that we find that referrals from other doctors are the number one source. Like you can pay for Facebook, you can do all that stuff, but you can either pay in money or you can pay in time. And so we feel that the people who take the time to go out and market to their peers like you did, like nothing can compete with that. Even still in today's world, nothing can compete with that. Like it tops patient referrals, it tops employee referrals, it tops Facebook and Google and all that stuff. Like developing the relationship with your peers is like number one. Nothing else there's no number two, no close number two. It's number one by a mile.
Yeah, and here's the nuances about that. In most communities today, most of the medical side systems are built around the corporate structures of hospitals and clinics.
Yeah.
So they very much are very incestuous in terms of their management of referrals. They want to keep you inside their system.
For sure.
But the advantage is that dentistry is not inside medical. And so for them to address these issues, they have to go outside of their little referral system. And so it's not just a matter of, can I make, friends with other physicians? It's you kind of have to find your way into the referral structure. You have to educate the physician. You have to help them understand why this matters. And I remember doing little lunch and learns. I'd go to the ENT office and I'd take my stuff and I'd say, let's put some gloves on and let's palpate facial muscles, for example. And while you're in there, take a look at the gum tissue. And so I would orient them. It's like what to look at when they're looking in the mouth, because they just look at the tonsils. I said, now on your way to the tonsils, just take a quick peek at the teeth. And if you see these half a dozen things, well, then you have a concern, because it will impact your ability to manage their blood sugar, for example. And we put gloves on them, and I say, now let's feel each other's muscle. If these muscles hurt, that's a little red flag that should tune you in as to maybe that's why they're having migraines or something like that. And that's why you might want to consider referring your patient to me. And so you have to kind of find your way through the back door, as it were, and not just educate them, but then also make it easy for them to do that through the referral structure, so that the referral managers have your stuff, your referral pad, your whatever, your contact information. And then the second thing that's really important is, if you're going to do stuff like this, is you need to report back. Thank you, Dr. Smith, for referring our mutual patient, Betty. I really appreciate your trust and your confidence, and we saw her, and this is what we found. And then I would always language it, as you know, and then I'd fill in the blank. Well, they don't really know, but they should. So I say, as you know, this is connected to the heart, blah, blah, blah. And because I'm really using this as an opportunity to teach them, as well as to report back to them,
right.
As always, your colleague, Dr. Ostler, whatever. And so every patient encounter, even with just the dental patients, was an opportunity to connect with that patient's physician by just sending the physician out of the blue, as it were, a status report on their patient. Even if it's as simple as, your mutual patient was here. I just want you to know that their gum tissue was in great health, and they don't have this and they don't have that. Therefore, if you see issues with their blood sugar or migraines, it's not this. And it was just kind of a backdoor way of educating them, because they have to attend to those communications. They have to read them. They have to, put them in their document folders and charts and so forth. It's official correspondence. And so it's kind of it's intuitively, it's kind of a sneaky way to get in their back door. And then we do things like specialists often do, at least in the dental world, is you take them brownies and donuts, and it's like you probably aren't going to get through the gatekeeper. You don't need to. You just need to put a card on it and tell the gatekeeper when you drop it off, I want Dr. Smith to have you got to need to reserve one brownie for him, because I'm going to ask him if he got it. And so all the gatekeepers are happy because they got a treat. But you subtly put them on notice. I want to make sure Dr. Smith knows that I stopped by. So you're just doing things that are elevating your your visibility, and you're at the same time educating, and you're establishing these professional referral networks, and here's the thing is like, we talk about, feathers in the cap. It's like, what you want to do is to put a feather in your cap, because that distinguishes you. Well, what if you could put two feathers in your cap? Just something that the next guy's not doing, and do it a little better, or teach a group of people how to do it. Because that's how this side business started. Was I had dentists come to me and say, hey, you're doing this, well, can I do it? Can you teach me how to do it? And it just organically happened. I didn't start intending for it to go that direction. It kind of organically developed one step at a time, and all of a sudden I've got this side business that is putting paper in one end of a printing press, and books are coming out the other end, and I'm selling these packages to other dentists who are then going into their community.
I like it. You're basically an innovator of sorts. I really like what you said about this whole, your whole approach is pretty advanced to how you went and worked with the different doctors and the gatekeepers and recognize that. I was kind of laughing inside when you're talking about it, because we manage a couple dental clinics in Utah, and my wife, we'll go down there for treatment sometimes, and they were really nervous at first to meet my wife, just because, it's like the manager's wife or something, they were kind of freaked out about it. But she's smarter than me, and she takes them like these ginormous cookies and all kinds of stuff. And the last time I went there, she had like 2 bags of cookies and a fruit plate and a candy thing. And I go, what is all this? And she's like, well, that's for the employees. And I go, well, what's the fruit for? Well, so-and-so, she's trying to eat healthier, so I need to bring her this. And so they're like totally overjoyed to see her. They could care less if they ever saw me again, but like they're totally overjoyed to see her. So she really has played that very, very, very wisely and smartly. I wanted to ask you, so
let me just chime in here first. Think about it. Let's say that you're a dentist, and for example, in our own sphere, we're going to refer to the endodontist, right? Okay. So in my community, I have 2 or 3 or 4 endodontic clinic specialists, right? And do I 90% of the time, do I really care which endodontist they see? And it's like, not really. I just need them to see an endodontist because of the unique circumstances of the situation.
This podcast is sponsored by Snake River Payroll, your hassle-free solution to all payroll needs. With fast, reliable service, they take care of your payroll so you can focus on what matters most. Snake River Payroll, payroll made simple. Visit srstaff.net today.
So they go up front in my office and they go, well, I need to go see an endodontist. Well, who's making the decision as to which endodontist they see?
Yeah.
Right? And so if the team feels a little bit fonder about one than the other because of their better attitudes and manners and the fact that they stop by with a smile on their face and share a joke, or they've developed a connection, they're going to get the lion's share of those referrals. And so you just kind of have to reverse engineer that and just say, I've got to get my ego out of the way. If I want referrals from other professionals, I mean, even as a general dentist, I'm probably a little bit niched in my abilities to do cosmetics and bite reconstructions, which is not your normal drill and fill. But if I'm going to get referrals from other wise health professionals who see that their patients could benefit from what I can offer them, then I need to have a good relationship with those referral sources. I need to be human. I need to be able to laugh. I just need to get my ego out of the way and realize that just like chairside manners or bedside manners, that is a marketing strategy.
Right.
It's how I should be anyway, but it's if you have no other reason for doing it than just say, well, it's a marketing strategy, a business strategy, then figure it out. And I remember there was a Omer Reed, who is kind of a previous generation's guru in practice management. He made the concept, or he made the comment, sing my song through your beak long enough and it's now your song. And he was happy to share. I don't care. You don't have to put my name on it. You just, we're here to all grow together, but do things that are a little uncomfortable at first, figure it out, but kind of reverse engineer it, but put you in the middle of it. Say, how would you want to be treated? How would you want to be handled? That's the emotional side of marketing.
Yeah, I was thinking as you were talking about the office manager or whoever, the front desk, referring the endodontist, and I thought about, you made me think about something I hadn't quite thought about before, and that was like, that might be the only dentist they have experience with, and they're, people may not realize this, but another doctor cares that the other side does a good job, right? Because if they don't, like if I refer somebody out and they don't do a good job, that's a reflection of me, and I never like hearing that. And that's the same thing for the dentist. They want to know that the other person is doing a good job. And if they don't have like a real, personal relationship with them, coming into the office and dropping off treats is going above and beyond, or it's showing that we care more than the next guy. So you feel you're going to be like, well, I'm more likely to send there, not because it's not really the treats, it's the gesture of coming over and trying hard and being kind and doing all those things makes them feel more comfortable than sending it to the next guy who they've never met. And you're kind of building a little bit of a relationship there as best as you can. I think now with social media, with YouTube and stuff, you can do that as well, but it's hard to beat a personal touch for sure. We actually just did something like that with my company. We have like a sister company that does payroll, and we took a bunch of things around too, like insurance companies that do local businesses and stuff. And I got everybody knows me, but I got a lot of texts back from people saying, hey, thanks so much for doing that. Your employees are really great and stuff like that. And of course it's Valentine's, so it was kind of a Valentine's themed thing, but that was definitely true. I want to touch on one other thing that you've kind of hit on, and I did not know this, that in the 90s that like selling for dentists was like taboo, and that your consultant said, oh wait, you can sell now. I did not know that. And so one thing that we're seeing in the marketplace changing, and dentists are ahead of the curve, okay, but cash-based businesses are ahead of the curve. Chiropractors of such are ahead of the curve. Hospitals kind of getting there. The private doctor, the medical doctor, is not there. And so as the deductible continues to increase, it becomes this, if I was to draw a graph, I say the more it increases, the more meaningless it becomes. And so you see, younger people, other people, some say, I can't afford it, I don't want to afford it. And so they're really becoming price sensitive, and physicians are going to have, in my opinion, the skill they don't have is they're going to have to learn how to sell in order to be successful in this next phase. Will private equity come buy everything out? I'm not convinced that's the case. I don't know. I'm not convinced of that. I know the hospitals are trying to buy everything out because they get paid a little bit more, but I think that day's ending with what Doge is doing. There's a clock out there. I was just looking at it yesterday called US debt clock, and Doge is saving roughly $2.5 to $3 billion a day. And I read an article just yesterday that said they're trying to save $880 billion in Medicare and Medicaid. And I think they found some fraud going overseas and whatnot. But I think the day of the medical doctor thinking, hey, we don't have to sell, is coming to an end. And I think it's coming to an end quickly. And so where the dentists have to sell, in my opinion, they have to sell. And they have to differentiate yourself. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, that's a really deep rabbit hole, because on the medical side, it's very much captured by the corporate model. It isn't really physicians that are running healthcare; it's the MD.
Agreed.
Physicians are kind of beholden to that; they're trapped in it because for reasons that are too numerous to go into. Almost obvious.
But what about the private practice physician? I, as a consultant, I don't work with any hospitals or big groups, but like the private practice physician, what advice would you give them?
Private practice, that's kind of a dying breed. And there's a smaller niche of concierge, type physicians who are leaning really heavily into more functional integrative medicine, which obviously correlates really well to the model I was describing earlier of the oral systemic, of the mouth, the body, looking at everything. Your appointment time with your physician is 30 to 60 to 90 minutes because it's not procedure based.
Yeah.
And you're not trying to crack numbers, as it were, like on the other side. And so I don't think that what now is we would call traditional, mainstream establishment healthcare. I don't really see that being impacted heavily, but from kind of an organic, ground up level, physicians or health professionals who are still a little bit, I'll call it old fashioned, whatever, in their approach to patient care and completeness and thoroughness and making connection, feeling a connection with their patients and being complete in their care. There is a strong niche there. It's not as easy to monetize as roller skate dentistry or roller skate medicine, because it just isn't.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it has a really bright future. I guess in my mind, I've always kind of broken medical kind of into three components. Like there's preventative care, which I think in the past we were really good at. Then there's sick care or injury care, which I think we kind of have, we've kind of spent all of our time in that world and kind of forgot about preventative care. And then I think there's what I'm going to call, I don't have a great word on it. We call it future care or enhancement care, but basically taking us beyond maybe how we were, originally came out of the womb. So, or restoring what we had. So, I mean, like a couple examples would be like, the laser cataract surgeries to help people see better. My son has to wear a hearing aid. He couldn't hear well. So they're getting technologies that maybe help us able to see or hear, or who knows what else, do things better than we were maybe naturally born with. And so I think that side is kind of future care, enhanced care, whatever you want to call it. I think that is an undiscovered country, and we hear maybe someday they'll be able to regrow teeth, or who knows, I don't know, but like
let me comment there, Carl, because if you stood back a ways and you're looking in the future 10, 20, 30 years, and you said, aside from all the technology and all that's going to be what it is. It will develop on its own energy. But it's like, what is the larger movement in healthcare? And it's even more than healthcare. It's we care. It's everybody, and it's about anti-aging. This is about how we live longer. We all know about lifespan, but not many people talk about health span. And so it's like the increased years, it's not how you live long. You can be 110 years old, but you started dying at 50.
Yeah.
Propped up by interventions and surgeries and drugs so that you live a long time, but you suffer most of that time. And so there's kind of a dawning age coming at us that is an anti-aging thing, and it's because the science is now starting to support it. This is another one of my side things that I've really latched on.
Oh, I should have known you had a side thing.
Well, I think that everybody should have something on the side. You got your 9 to 5, and then you should have your 5 to 9, whatever.
Yeah.
We got taught in March of 2020 that if you don't have something else besides what you've got, you're vulnerable. People with a pen can put a signature on paper and take your livelihood away. That's what it showed us, right? And so for all of our smugness and all the fancy things that we do, and the high numbers we have in our bank accounts or pensions or our appointment schedules, whatever that is, it can go away in a weekend with somebody's signature. The point is maybe that's a little paranoid or whatever, but should we have been that way in 2019? We should have been thinking right before it happened that we have these capabilities. So my point here is, what's the future? The future is anti-aging. Well, how do you get into that? How do you monetize that? Well, it's about health, and dentistry is a part of that. It doesn't mean you stop doing what you're doing. You're just going to do, I call it MSI, multiple source of income streams, or side interests that all play together. And so this anti-aging thing is about cellular health. It's about how the body works, what cell biology is, and so that took me into some other side, rabbit holes where I've now written 2 or 3 books on cellular health, cell biology, anti-aging, herbal medicine, and not that everybody needs to go do something like this, but to think in this direction of saying, where's the kind of the Wayne Gretzky idea, where's the puck going? Where should I be going to meet up with where the puck is? And so it kind of blends back into this conversation of how do I mold my practice? How do I interact with people in terms of shaping my interactions with a consumer, who's what are they interested in? Some are just interested in a filling, and some are just interested in a wisdom tooth coming out, and some are just interested in not having migraines anymore or whatever. But by and large, if we can get ahead of the curve that talks about health, anti-aging, that you made the comment about prevention. It's like, that's really tough to monetize also, because then you don't need my services.
Yeah.
If you think about that and say, what's the likelihood, that 370 million people in this country or more worldwide would suddenly be healthy overnight? That it's impractical to assume that, but there's niches within the community that appeals to. And so if you become the voice that talks about that and encourages people to be healthy and well and prevent problems, they're going to sign up with you to do the bigger stuff, which is what we get paid to do as dentists. Right? Because it's out there to be done, because for 100 years we haven't been doing it. And so now this new concept of anti-aging is one to take note of. It's one to find a way to get into, whether you do it directly through your practice or you do it as a side gig, side hustle. It all bleeds together and cross supports. And
how would a dentist get involved in anti-aging? Like, what is their angle, you think? What would it, like, if I'm a dentist, how do I get in? How can I use my skill to get into the anti-aging arena? What would you tell people to do?
Well, your dental skills. I mean, we're trained as dentists to intervene. We do surgery on teeth, right? So by then it's too late. It's after the fact. And so my point is, you're still going to do your 9 to 5 intervention because the need is there and people need it. The point is that there's more and more people who are seeking to be in communities with providers who are thinking out of the box, encouraging prevention. They appreciate the fact that you're wanting to help them save money, and you're gaining their trust, their confidence. You're becoming informed about what cellular health means. You can now speak the speak and walk the talk of how they interact with the other healthcare providers in their life. And you become kind of a quarterback for them. You're a coach to them, and they value you there. So at the end of the day, they're going to write a check to you for the things that you do well, but you're expanding your horizons. And at this point in time, to answer your question directly, it's really difficult to do quote unquote anti-aging, whatever that might mean, inside a dental practice with the services that we render. Unless
they got to think of new stuff. I work with a periodontist.
Box. And so what's an easy way to do that? Well, I've investigated and actually done some of these. I mean, you can do your own nutritional product line, label kind of stuff. You can begin doing presentations in the community on health and wellness, which means you need to understand it in the first place. You can do network marketing things. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there that have really high quality products, and if you get your nose out of joint because it's a network marketing, it's like, get over it. That's it's just a different way of distributing goods and services to a base, to a network. And so, and you're not going to find those products generally at Walmart, because there's stuff.
That's true.
So if you want more high quality stuff, you're going to have to go. There's a few company, like I'm just speaking in the nutritional space. There's 2 or 3 brands out there that are just straight to consumer or online or whatever, or Amazon, that you have fairly quality stuff. I'd say beyond that, you're going to be into network marketing businesses that do everything from nutrients to essential oils to but the whole point here is when you stand back and you look at what's happening out there. Look at red light therapy. Look at ozone. Look at all these things that are associated with anti-aging. Look at redox signaling, which is what I got into. All of those things are anti-aging because they they obey the rules of cellular function. They're signaling gene pathways to turn on that create more glutathione, that create more healing, that downregulate inflammation. And once you get your head around that, you go, oh, there's plenty of ways to monetize that, but it's not because I want to start manufacturing or relabeling, or that's too much work. You can do it really easily with other ways.
Yeah, that's interesting. So basically, your nutshell idea is that here's the box, and we need to really start thinking outside that little box that's been presented to us, because anti-aging, I agree with you, is huge. I'm 55 and my wife's 54, and we've been spending a lot of time trying to figure out how we can age more gracefully, and it's tough. It's tough when we do different things, and I mostly just try to eat better and lift weights quite a bit. That's what I mostly do, and she does.
Well, see, Carl, this whole idea of, because I remember 40 years ago, I met some dentists who were really into prevention.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit about health, but it was about, that's how our teeth stay healthy. And I could really never get I didn't know enough back then to get my head around that one. I just thought it was weird,
Yeah.
Well, they didn't really have the science 40 years ago, 60 years ago. It was just, it was so rudimentary. It was really hard to see it coming. Now, today, there is a reason why herbs work, and we know what it is. And it's not fringe. The reason why, as I said, lasers work. We've used lasers to do things like treat cold sores and mouth lesions and whatnot and we just kind of write it off. Say, well, it has an inductive effect. It's faster healing, etc. I'm kind of a whyologist. I want to know why. Why does that work? I get that it does, but why?
A whyologist. I have not heard that before. I love that. A whyologist.
I want to know why, because when I know why, then I know the background, right? And so my point is once you figure this out and say, now I know why nutrition is important, not just for tooth decay, but for overall health, because nutrition and phytochemicals and herbal constituents and exosomes and hyperbaric oxygen and redox signaling and all these things, they work because they upregulate survival and longevity genes.
Yeah,
that's why they work. And once you know that, you can put them together, and you're hitting 50. Or 50, what is it, 55 you said?
55. Yeah, 55, yeah.
Okay, I'm 70. And
you are?
Yeah, and so...
You look amazing for 70.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here saying, well, how can I grow old and still stay young? Well, you've got to mind the rules of the cell. The rules of the cell dictate. And when I'm not well, I call this, in one of my books I wrote, I call this the law of antecedents.
Yeah.
If you're not putting together the right pathways, you're not going to get the results you want. It's
interesting.
These are laws that are cellular based. They're predicated upon obeying them if you expect. Now I get, people say, well, my genes, and it's like, no, your genes are like 5% of the equation. 90 to 95% of the equation is the epigenetic influence you have on your genes. It's the overlay, like epidermis. It's the overlay, the influence that your lifestyle and your environment has on your genes that tells them which genes are going to express and which ones are going to stay silent. And so that becomes more important as we get old. And if you start understanding that and reflecting that, back to our earlier thought, it's like there's a large and growing segment in the population out there that's starting to get this. And it's not just because they're old and baby boomer, people, which is still true. They want less suffering themselves. And so if you blend us all together and say, if I can put something in front of that group, and some of that's dentistry because it's related to overall health, if I can do that, then I'm back to this model where not just a tooth doctor.
Right.
Not just a...
That's good. So I have a daughter. She just finished up the Dr. Christopher's herbology program. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yep.
She finished all of it. She's got the master's in herbology, and she's really talented at it. It's not an easy course. I think she spent a couple of years working on it, and so she'll make. I think I actually have some in my drawer here to see if I can do it. Show and tell here. So she'll make me something. If I have I can't remember what these are, but she made me these in this little thing a while back. Kind of handmade herbology stuff, and she's always making juicing and different things. And then I have another daughter who is a nurse practitioner, and she is more into the testosterone replacements and thyroid and all that kind of jazz. And so together I kind of got lucky. I have a good combination. And then my son-in-law is a dentist, so he takes good care of my teeth. And then of course my brother is a dermatologist, and then I have another brother-in-law who's a family doctor. So we kind of got pretty lucky with some of this stuff. But I'm
writing a book series right now called AntiFragile. I'm probably about a month from publishing it. It's a 3-volume series. The first volume is Redox Cell Biology, because that just talks about how the cells work and what the laws and rules are.
This podcast is sponsored by Snake River Payroll, your hassle-free solution to all payroll needs. With fast, reliable service, they take care of your payroll so you can focus on what matters most. Snake River Payroll, payroll made simple. Visit srstaff.net today.
The second volume is on herbal medicine, because when I started to get into herbs a few years ago, knowing what I know about redox cell biology, I realized that this is the why for why herbal medicine works. And there's 2 sides to herbal medicine. This is a little rabbit hole here. But
I can tell you like those rabbit holes.
Some of your listeners this is part of the overall discussion of how you broaden your,
right.
Because these are market segments out there. I wanted to get into the herbal market people. There's hundreds of thousands of people out there that are into this natural thing. You think of it what you want, they're there and they want this. So I thought, well, I'll just go learn it. So what I discovered was that herbal medicine has kind of 2 sides to it. One is the pharmaceutical side.
Yes.
It as interventions for a problem. But the bigger question is, well, why did I get the problem in the first place that required an intervention? You choose which intervention. It can be a prescription, pharmacology, or it can be an herbal medical herb constituent that you choose, but it's still an intervention trying to fix a problem that cropped up because I got sick. The other side of herbal medicine is what we call the constitutive side. And it's kind of an old-fashioned word, but it's the constitution. It's the background, the floor, right? It's just how everything works. And so they talk about things like tonics and like it's a good tonic, and it's like, well, I don't know what that means. I'm pharmacology trained. I don't know what tonic means. But what it means is that I'm upregulating gene pathways that turn on my cell defenses. That's what it means. And this is closely tied to nutrition. Nutrition or plant-based health, using phytonutrients that grow in food, right, are like right there with herbal medicine, which are specific plants that have created phytochemicals in them for their own survival. They don't have they can't defend themselves against the threats in their growing environment, so they create phytochemicals that would be toxic to their predators. Well, when we eat those, when we consume those, then they're subtoxic to us, meaning that we have to mount a response to them. It's like exercise. When you exercise, you're really hurting yourself. The way it's healthy is when you recover and you heal, you become stronger, you're more fit, you're more resilient. And so the question in anti-aging is, what can I be doing that mimics a slight bit of stress that will cause my body to be more fit and resilient and capable when the threat comes along? That's what anti-aging is all about. And herbal medicine is a part of that, both as a treatment, but I think it's more important as a day in, day out. This is what I want to do, to randomly insult my own system in a mild way, just like fasting does, just like exercise does. the phytochemicals or the secondary messengers or metabolites from herbs or plants that we eat are really upregulating our stress response because they're slightly toxic. They challenge our mitochondria. We call it mitohormesis. The hormesis is just, too much of a good thing is bad, too little of a good thing is bad. I need the Goldilocks amount, that's just the right amount of stress that will cause me to upregulate my cell defenses. And so all of this together, I'll send you a copy of the book when it comes out. And,
Yeah, please.
but the point is, all of this blends together and one thing builds on the other. And pretty soon you've got something that you can market. You've got side channels. You've got other streams of income. My books are on Amazon, so there's.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to send us a link to all your books and everything. People want to go check them out. So that's I want to get that when we get your bio information so that people can send that stuff. Well, we talked about a lot of different things today. We were originally wanted to talk about your cell, but we went down this different rabbit hole, which is cool. This is fun. And I think I want to, maybe we can have a second interview in the future to talk a little about the cell and that. But before I wrap this up, I would like to say, we've talked a little bit about the future. And I thought maybe if you could give some pointers to like somebody just coming into dental right now, somebody maybe in the middle stage, and maybe somebody kind of maybe on the end stage. What advice would you give those three phases of people in dental? I mean, that's a big question, I know, but
Yeah,
you have a great answer.
I think that everybody has a different set of skills and what they want. Right now, as I said, I sold my practice and I'm working back as an associate. After 40 years, I'm now an employee for a little while. And I got to tell you, I really love it. I wonder why I didn't do this earlier, because I'm not the one writing the checks and, hiring and firing. And I'm looking for that change. But if you're starting out, you kind of have to find yourself. I mean, there's no right or wrong to any of this. The marketplace is big out there. I have to plead ignorance a bit. I'm really very much on the outside of what all of the the corporate influence is that's come into dentistry. I have opinions. I don't necessarily want to share them here.
Yeah, that's fine. I personally, the clients I go after are the ones not in corporate. I mean, I might have one exception, but for the most part, I don't really want people in that space because it's not. I guess for me, a couple of reasons. One, I mean, the main reason is they can, like, if I had 10 or 12 clients and they're all with this group, they can leave me quick, and that puts me in a bad spot. That's number one. Number two, generally they already have a person. I'm not going to think they're as good as me, but they're going to have a person kind of like me. So we kind of like butt heads. And then the third reason is working with like small companies like yourself, people that are mavericks, people that are innovators. I just love that. So it's like kind of fulfilling for me to let's work on coming up with your unique signature, if you will, because even though if I had like 6 or 7 dermatologists, which I do, they all are a little different. Some are more heavy cosmetic, some are all medical, some are in between, some have multiple locations, some don't. They're just kind of all versions. And then within dentistry, it's the same thing. There might be somebody that just focuses on the Medicaid population. Okay, fine, we can be creative there. There might be somebody that's just, hey, I only want to make $40,000 cases, right? And we're gonna do all new teeth, and you're gonna look wonderful when it's all said and done. You've got those people, and then you got other person's like, I'm not interested in that. I just want to do bread and butter dentistry, and that's my thing, and then I got some periodontists, and they're like, they're obviously a little, they're all in the mouth, but they're all a little bit different. So for me, it's kind of fun to kind of find, and I have a ton of podiatrists. So, and they're all like kind of their own thing, some people like doing surgeries, some don't, some want to do this, they're just within that space. They all kind of find what they enjoy doing. So it's like, okay, how can we monetize what you enjoy doing? You might have to do some stuff you don't enjoy doing to make it work, but how can we spend most of our time on doing the things that we love doing the most, and so realize, that's kind of fun for me. And I think it's fun for them. And they find that if they can go their course their own, they have so much more flexibility in their schedule. I have a person, he is, I'm not sure if he's more coach or more podiatrist. He's one of those, I think he's more coach at the moment, podiatrist down here. Obviously, I'm just joking. He's going to know who I'm talking about, but he's going to be coaching his kids' game, and he's going to be there, and they're all really involved in sports. And that's cool that the way he set it up allows them the flexibility to do that, and so that you were not going to get that in the corporate world. You're not going to get that flexibility.
Yeah, you're right. And that's a brilliant idea because, you could see yourself. And again, this goes back to identifying what it is your niche is. If you see yourself as the best, and I don't mean to say this in a derogatory, as the best toenail clipper, surgeon in the world, it's like you're going to make a lot of money clipping people's toenails and help them with diabetic foot problems and so on and so forth. But as you're doing that, what if you broadened your perspective? Think of chiropractic, think of optometry, think of any of these specialties that all have this. You're treating people who are getting older. You're treating people who want to be treated kindly. You're working with other healthcare professionals that are working with the same patient. And if you thought outside the box, you could find a way to get into those other offices through the back door. You could think of having your patients think so highly of you that they would tell their friends about this wonderful dentist who cares more about you than the DO restoration on tooth number 29, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing to them, but they just know that you treated them right and that you're concerned about their general health. All of that is good marketing, and it opens up doors to do other things on the side. And that's the that's the one thing I would tell all of you, here, sitting here 40 years later, imagine what life would be like if you had more than one stream of income that you could depend on, if you had multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
That's why the distribution network thing captivates me, is because you can have 1,000 or 10,000 income streams. And if one goes south, you still have the other 999. And so you're not doing that exclusively, although you could, but you're doing that as part of an overarching strategy to position yourself in the marketplace and in the lives and the eyes of your patients and your other healthcare providers in a way that favors you rather than leaves you vulnerable.
Yeah, I like that. We did so this is something new as we develop tools. So our main tool is something that kind of helps private practices, look at what are my current numbers. And I'm kind of surprised, like I've talked to a couple new people who are doing evaluations on right now. And I just assumed they had numbers, but they don't have any numbers. And I was like, oh, that kind of surprised. I mean, it was 2025, right? I thought they'd have some numbers, but they don't have any numbers. And I'm like, oh, I wasn't prepared for that. That's fine. We can help you. So our primary tool is just to kind of help them like look at the past and then, forecast the future, plan, and then talk about, because everybody's different. Like, maybe have a staff problem. Maybe you have I'm paying too much for supplies. Maybe, I don't know, whatever the issue is, the numbers usually reveal that. Maybe I have an AR problem. Maybe I'm just like, everything's going great. Okay, that's great. But like, or some people, their plan is so like, they kind of reached a level where there's no room for error. Okay, so they're like, got things so put, like, if you miss a day, we can't make that day up, so we're not going to hit our numbers. And I would just say, one thing as we're trying to move our clients to the next level, because most of people like you that I work with, we put together this little decision matrix, if you will. It's kind of in its first or second generation that looks at the 5 or 6 different investments. Well, I did it for myself because I have a couple different things. And I was like looking at it going, oh, I need to think differently about how I'm doing things, because it was just eye-opening. So for a guy like you that has multiple income streams, and I think all my clients kind of do, maybe have 2 or 3, like this really is eye-opening to think about how I should be spending my time. And that's it. Just it was, I kind of knew it, but as I did these numbers, it was just kind of like a, punch in the gut. Like you really got to be smarter about how you approach things, and be more disciplined. So this last couple of weeks is I've had to raise my game a lot, thinking about how to be more out of the box. So I kind of think it forces that. So if people are interested in that too, they can reach out to me. But yeah,
So
given
you're
us,
talking about resilience.
yeah,
It's like the fire department doesn't just sit around doing nothing. They are always ready. It doesn't matter what comes along. They're resilient. They're fit. They're capable. They're able. They're response able. And so that's part of, you've got to have the machine, whatever your practice is,
yeah,
and face to the community is, you've got to have the basics down. You've got to be able to do that well, and at least, think that through. But at the same time, if we get so smug to think that, well, whatever it is that I'm doing insulates me from everything, like my margins are really narrow. I don't have latitude. I don't have resilience. I couldn't rebound really well. And so I think that's a really important part. And so it's a multi-factorial strategy. You're reverse engineering this to say, well, what can I lay in place now? It's not been a practitioner saying, well, what other services can I become good at so that I can offer them? So I'm not just, I'm not just whatever it is your thing is, right? You've got latitude and resilience.
Well, so when you talk about resilience, and earlier we talked a little bit about some of the effects of COVID, right? And how somebody could like put a, hey, you can't, like, because I have clients in Washington, and the state would be like, hey, you can't really, and I have clients in California, it's even worse. Like you can't work, and I'm like telling, I got to be careful, but I'm secretly saying, find a way to work, find a way to stay open, invent a way to stay open. And then we had some, this wasn't me, but I was hearing about some clients in different states, like family practice, and they might have been, I would call a little bit too obedient, I guess, if you will, in shutting down. And they didn't have any savings. And so I was hearing, they're probably going out of business. I go, this is only like 6 weeks into this. What do you mean you're going out of business in 6 weeks or a couple months? I'm like, you have no savings to make it through a couple of months? And I was just shocked to hear that, because we had people calling us, hey, do you have any jobs for us, or this or that? And I was like, I guess that's one piece of advice I give any private practice person is like, you've got to have savings, and it allows you to find good deals and good investments when they come along. But like, you just don't know what's going to happen in the future, and you got to have a cushion.
Well, it's not just about COVID, it's not just about somebody who can take you out of your game. It's about, what if you broke both your arms? What if you're in a traffic accident? What if you had a stroke?
Yeah.
And I get that most of these aren't problems that have to be solved in a weekend, right? There's time to put this together, but that's part of the kind of what you just said. You've spent the last few weeks kind of rethinking. It's like, maybe my opinions of some of these other things, I should reevaluate and not be so stuck on my own paradigms, and get outside the box and realize, because I've done 180 degrees on some of this. It's like, well, I don't need to do all that. I'm a dentist. I'm going to be rich someday. That was my thinking early on.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, then life starts to show up, and family problems show up, and economic struggles and COVID and on show up, and you realize, had I started this better 20 years ago, and I had other options and multiple, and they can all layer. They're all part of this. It's not something I'm doing way differently. I'm not starting an engineering consulting because I don't know engineering, right? These are allied with what I'm already doing. And I'm gaining these life skills and putting income streams together. Then I'm not beholden to any one thing that could happen on me. And I think, as maybe in conclusion, it's like, that's really, you asked for my advice. It's like, do the best you can at treating feet or backs or necks or teeth or whatever it is you do, but also at the same time, tap into some of these other market trends and find ways that you can layer them into what you're doing that gives you more exposure to people, more exposure to referral sources, and especially that develop other income streams that are monetizable, right? And that are residual. Because if you have to go trade your time for dollars to get those dollars, then you've got another job. That's not what you want. You want something, write a book. I've got money coming in every month from Amazon because people buy the books. Well, I didn't know that that's what I didn't intend to do that when I started. I was just doing research.
Right.
It turns out, a few years later, I've got money dripping into my checking account every month because I've got books on Amazon that hit these points. Well, now that I know that, it's like each success, is like, oh, if I can do that, then I can do this. It's like, what else can I do? So find a niche and go start to fill it, and they'll start to send you money. It's as easy as that.
I love it. I love it. Well, I want to appreciate you for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to me today, and kind of doing a virtual applause here. So I hope everybody that watches this also does the same thing. You can look at your link in our bio, in the video bio, and go see your books on Amazon. Go see your website if you have one. And I would like to visit with you again and talk a little bit more about your practice transition at some point in the future. And don't be a stranger. And you got my contact information, so reach out to me if you got a question or you want to run an idea by me, or you have something that you think would be helpful for me. I would love to hear from you again. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Carl.
All right. Take care. Have a great one. Bye.
This podcast is sponsored by Snake River Payroll, your hassle-free solution to all payroll needs. With fast, reliable service, they take care of your payroll so you can focus on what matters most. Snake River Payroll, payroll made simple. Visit srstaff.net today.